Welcome to Here's How We Get There. It's the daily show filled with conversations about business and mental health in a down-to-earth style with real-world language. Now let's dive in with your co-hosts, Kenneth Shark Kinney and Trey Tucker.
Shark, tell us a story about the importance of a business creating FOMO.
So one of the best stories in the last, several years that I've seen, and companies have been creating buzz to fuel fads forever. But the Stanley Cup, not the hockey team playing for the championship,
Right.
but the 100-year-old thermos that's all the rage. So one of the things I've always laughed about, I think it's really interesting. I'm sure that Stanley leaned into this at some point, but apparently this thermos that had been around for a gazillion years had some really decent reviews, and then some mom bloggers put some videos and posts out there about how good the thermos was. And what's funny too is I just recently saw on Good Morning America where they compared it to two other cheaper alternatives, which kept the drinks colder and longer and held more liquid than this particular mug. But you would think that this thing had reinvented the world. But when it did, they tapped into the right kind of audience and helped create a fad. You're taking a legacy product, if you will. I mean, there's different colors. I mean, I think Chip and Joanna Gaines came out with some colors specifically for this. Target had their own version, or Starbucks had their own version as well. And this became a big deal. But now you're starting to see, I just heard a news story where somebody stole $2,500 worth of these thermoses and was arrested on a felony charge. I'm sure they were let out because that's what people do anymore, is just let them go. But anyway, whenever you're creating or trying to market a product or service, this is again an example of making certain that you try to leverage FOMO, because you can take a 100-year-old product and with the right audience providing influence, not influencers, but providing influence, you can create a trendy fad out of almost anything. I mean, this is not a new product. Thermoses were invented a long time ago, and this one wasn't anything spectacular. However, all of a sudden, people were asking about this thing left to right. You would see hordes of women. It looked like the Hunger Games, where they were going in there to Targets trying to take all the Stanley cups they could, the Stanley thermoses. Right. I'm surprised some of it, people weren't killed like an axe-wielding mom coming in. But if you target the right audience or lean into the right kind of audience, and when have you gone anywhere and seen a woman who wears yoga pants or Lululemon pants not have water with them?
Yes.
I mean, this is exactly where you're catering to the people that drink water. How many construction workers do you see drinking water all the time? You don't, but you always see women. And so I think it's incredibly smart that they leaned into this audience with these bloggers and help amplify the story of the thermos, as opposed to trying to create it from scratch. And I think that's one of the fantastic things about creating the fear of missing out in this trend-worthy fashion is leaning into your audience. It could be done at a later time. It doesn't have to be right when your product or service comes out. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that fear of missing out is real. And the fear underneath missing out is the fear of being left out, because we want to be part of a tribe. We want to belong. And if we feel like if we somehow miss out on a product like this or a trend like this, we're then going to be seen as uncool and maybe rejected and ostracized. It's all these kind of worst case scenarios start building. So what I thought was really clever about how they started this whole movement was they started with micro influencers. In other words, people that had a few hundred followers, maybe a couple thousand at the most, to start building that accessibility image. Like, well, if this person who seems pretty normal and they're not necessarily a big deal on social media, if they're drinking it and they're promoting it and they're liking it, then I could do it too. I could easily do it. And then it kind of started as the common man, common woman movement into bigger things now. But the other thing they did is they added some of the color offerings to include pastel colors, which, back to your point about ladies using it to drink water for yoga class. Yeah, they didn't do anything all of that revolutionary, but they chose a couple of ingredients that really worked.
Yeah, this is the most conversation that people have had about the Stanley Cup since never. So, I mean, other than when I get excited talking about the San Jose Sharks, That's the extent of it for me. And I know I own 0 Lululemon pants, so this is not necessarily my favorite thermos. However, I'll enjoy my Tervis and see you on the other side.
Thank you for joining Shark and Trey on the Here's How We Get There show. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and visit here'showwegetthere.com. That's here'showwegetthere.com.